Hello and welcome to our webinar, The Books Are Afoot. I'm Annie Bostrom, Senior Editor in Adult Books at Booklist. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some technical details. Links to today's slide presentation and title list were included in the email you received from Zoom 1 hour ago. To download them, please open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the links located there. You can also download the slides and title list by copying the URLs on this screen into your web browser. If you have any trouble accessing these materials, please contact us at webinars@booklistonline.com. The audience is in listen-only mode today, but we welcome any questions you may have. On the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a section for Q&A. If you have a question or need any technical assistance, simply click Q&A and type your message into the box that appears. We'll do our best to respond to all tech-related questions, and we'll pass along all other questions to today's panelists so that they can follow up with you after the webinar today. Last but not least, Booklist offers closed captioning on all webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the live transcript icon on the toolbar mentioned earlier. From there, you can select show or hide subtitles from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting Subtitle Settings. Today, we have the pleasure of hearing from Martin Brown, Senior Brand Manager at Severn House, Lainey Mays, Library Marketing Associate at HarperCollins Publishers, Erica Loberg, Publicist at Soho Press, and Faith Matson, Director of Marketing and Publicity at Oceanview Publishers. First, we'll hear from Martin Brown. Martin is the Senior Brand Manager for Severn House. He works closely with authors on marketing their books and manages Severn House's online presence, advertising, and general publicity. Originally from Glasgow, he started working in publishing with independent presses such as Cargo Publishing. After 6 years living in the US and working with a large book distributor, he recently returned to Scotland to join Severn House. He lives in Edinburgh with his partner and their 2 cats. Welcome, Martin.
Hi, Annie. Thanks very much, everyone. It's great to be here with you all, and I'm excited to be presenting some of our great mysteries that Severn House has coming soon. As Annie said, my name's Martin. I'm the Senior Brand Manager at Severn House. For those of you who don't know us, we're an imprint of Canongate Books, publishing all types of genre fiction, but with a particular focus on crime and mysteries. So my email is on the screen there. If you have any follow-up questions from the presentation today, please, I'd be delighted to hear from you and answer them as best I can. So feel free to reach out to me, or as Annie said, you can drop your questions in the Q&A box and I'll be happy to answer them later. So let's dive right in with the books we have coming in January 2023. And this is the first up. It's actually a little bit of a bittersweet one for us. This is The Final Beat of the Drum. This is the 15th and final book in Sally Spencer's wonderful DCI Monica Poniatowski series. Sally is retiring from writing, so this will be their final book after more than 50 books with Severn House. So we're delighted to be publishing this latest book, but we're very, very sad to be seeing Sally go. But fittingly, this book actually begins with Monica's retirement from the force as a homicide detective. We then jump forward 15 years where an old friend and colleague turns to Monica for help when she's been accused of a horrible crime. Monica sets out to prove her friend's innocence, but as she gets deeper into the investigation, she begins to wonder, is her friend really innocent, or is Monica helping her get away with murder? So this is a brilliant last hurrah for Monica and her team, who have become so familiar over the course of the series. It ties up some long-running storylines and provides some satisfying endings, but it's also a great mystery that new readers will be able to jump straight into. It's full of twists and turns and red herrings in Sally's signature style. So we're delighted to be publishing The Final Beat of the Drum in January 2023. If I could have the next slide, please. Thank you. So next up is The Long Way Out, the second book in the Frankie Dast mystery series from Michael Wiley. This is a dark, grimy mystery starring an unusual sleuth with a dark past. So Frankie Dast is a former death row inmate, now exonerated. In book 1 of the series, Frankie helped track down the person truly responsible for the crime he was convicted of, but he still carries that dark past with him, and now he lives on the fringes of society, helping others who've been cast aside by the justice system. That's why a Mexican immigrant family turned to him rather than the authorities to help them track down their teenage daughter's murderer. When another body turns up, it becomes clear that someone is targeting victims on the fringes of society. And so can Frankie find the killer, especially when, in the course of his investigation, he comes up against the detectives who wrongly put him away. So this is, again, a brilliantly dark, noirish mystery set in Florida, with some searing commentary on the justice system and those who it does and doesn't help. And again, this is one that is publishing in January 2023. Next slide, please. Next up, we have Courting Dragons. This is the first in a brand new historical mystery series from Jerry Westerson, perhaps best known for her Crispin Guest mystery series, which wrapped up last year. This series is called The King's Fool Mysteries. And as the title suggests, this stars a sleuthing jester in the court of King Henry VIII, a jester by the name of Will Summers. So in this first mystery, Will gets drawn into the world of blackmail and plotting in the court when the body of a Spanish count is discovered. So this is a gripping and fun historical mystery that makes brilliant use of the character of the jester as the king's entertainer. He's the chief gossip monger, spy, and advisor all rolled into one. He knows all of the court's secrets while still being on the outside of all the plotting and backstabbing that's going on in the court. So the perfect position for a sleuth to be in. We're really delighted to have a new series from Jerry. She's a wonderful historical writer. And again, this one is out in January of 2023. Can we have the next slide, please? So moving on to our February titles, we have The Ambassador from Peter Colt. This is the fourth book in the Andy Rourke mystery series set in 1980s Boston, starring a Vietnam veteran turned private investigator. So like his protagonist, Peter Colt, the author, is an army veteran with experience in Iraq and is currently a police officer in Rhode Island, so he has a wealth of experience to draw on when writing these mysteries. In this book, Andy is called in by the former ambassador to Laos to help him track down a would-be assassin, an assassin that he believes to be one of Andy's old army comrades. So this is a great hard-boiled noirish mystery told from the point of view of Andy. It's full of those dry, witty asides that you'd expect from a kind of hard-boiled noir from the first person. Andy is a dogged and determined PI, but he also has a sort of softer, more vulnerable side. He's not the cliched macho detective. He has a real depth of character and is a genuinely likable sleuth. So that one is again out in February 2023. Next slide, please. And next up, we have Before I Sleep. This is another entry in a brilliant long-running series from Cynthia Harrod Eagles. This is the 24th book in the DCI Bill Slider series. This is a brilliant procedural following, I think what Booklist called one of Britain's most engaging coppers, as he tries to solve the case of a missing woman. This woman, her life seems very stable and happy. There's been no signs of trouble, but one night she simply vanishes without a trace. With no leads to go on and the clock ticking, DCI Slider begins to retrace her last known movements and is soon drawn down a dark and twisted path into her secret past. One of the things that always impresses us, we've been working with Cynthia for a very long time, one of the things that always impresses us is how dexterously she shifts between tones. There's a lot of brilliantly funny, very witty banter between the characters, but this is combined with a genuinely tense, slow burn plot that continuously ratchets up the tension throughout and builds up to a shocking reveal. So that is out again in February 2023. Next slide, please. And moving on, we have a second in G.M. Mallier's Augusta Hawke mystery series starring sleuthing crime writer Augusta Hawke. So in this book, Augusta is hired to ghostwrite the memoir of a Washington, D.C. socialite. But when a celebrity doctor is killed at the socialite's dinner party, Augusta is attending, she finds herself in the middle of a mystery that's straight out of an Agatha Christie novel, Murder at a Dinner Party. So Gia Malley is an Agatha Award-winning author, and Augusta Hawke is a brilliant new character that she's just begun writing about very recently, a very compelling, insightful female sleuth that gives readers a peek into the world of publishing and mystery writing. That again is out in February 2023. And next slide, please. So next up, we have another first in our new series, this time from the brilliant Sarah Raine. This is the first in her deliciously gothic Theatre of Thieves historical mystery series set in early 20th century London. This stars the Fitzglens, one of London's leading theatre families who, when they're not on stage, make their living as thieves. The patriarch of the family, Jack Fitzglen, has a plan to steal a legendary artifact known as the Talisman Chalice. He wants to create an extravagant piece of theatre around it. But there is a legend about the chalice, that it can drag you into a darkness from which you will never emerge. So as I said, this is a brilliantly gothic mystery which plays with the past and present colliding, unfolding in multiple timelines as Jack unravels the ominous past of the chalice. And if you are, Sarah Raine is a brilliant, brilliant author. If you are at all into gothic fiction, gothic mysteries, this is an absolute must read, and we're delighted to have a new series from her. Again, this one is out in February 2023. Next slide, please. Brilliant. And so moving on to our March publications, but sticking with historical mysteries, we have the latest in Paul Doherty's Margaret Beaufort Tudor mystery series, Dark Queen Wary. So in this book, Margaret Beaufort must solve a series of gruesome murders at the home of George Neville, the Archbishop of York, while simultaneously playing a battle of wits with King Edward IV to protect her son, Henry Tudor, to protect her son Henry Tudor's right to the throne when Edward presents an imposter prince as heir. So like all of Paul Doherty's books, this is impeccably researched historical fiction full of real life characters. I always have to draw this attention to this great quote from Publishers Weekly. It makes Game of Thrones look like a game of patty cake. Paul really brings the tense, cutthroat world of the Tudor courts to life in these mysteries, and we're absolutely delighted to be publishing another one in the Margaret Beaufort series. So that one is out again in March 2023. And if we can move on to the next book, please. So sticking with historical mysteries, although not reaching quite as far back in time, this is Barbara Hambly's second book in the Silver Screen historical mystery series set in 1920s Hollywood. So this stars young British widow Emma Blackstone and her beautiful silent movie star sister-in-law, Kitty Flint. When one of Kitty's old boyfriends, who's a renowned director, calls them, sounding afraid, and tells them to meet him on the set. Tells them to meet him on the set of his extravagant new movie. When they arrive, they make a shocking discovery and discover that a deadly puzzle is waiting on the set for them. So this is a book that really immerses you in the time. It has all the glitz and glamour of the 1920s Hollywood, as well as the seedy underbelly. One of the themes is just how dangerous early movie sets were, and how expendable extras and some of the actors were treated. One of the little tidbits the editor was telling me that appears in the book is in early films, they wouldn't use prop guns or blanks or anything. They would just hire sharpshooters and ask them not to hit the extras for gun scenes. So that's a very weird little detail that does appear. But this is a perfect read for anyone who's interested in early Hollywood, or just anyone who enjoys a really excellent, tightly constructed mystery puzzle. Barbara is an absolute master at constructing these really brilliant puzzles, and we're delighted to have this new series from her. So that is One Extra Corpse, and it is coming out in March 2023. And if we could have the next slide, please. So finally, we're delighted to welcome a new writer to our list, Susan C. Shea. with the first in our brand new Chateau in Burgundy mystery series. If you're looking for a getaway from the grit and grime of more hard-boiled thrillers, this is the perfect book for you. It's set in beautiful Burgundy in France, so perfect for the Francophiles amongst you. And Susan has a really wonderful sense of place in these books. So the story follows a recent widow, Ariel Shepherd, who inherits a rundown French chateau. So she hires a historian to help research the history of the ruin, but one morning the historian is found dead in the chateau moat, and it is up to Ariel to investigate who would want to kill the historian and why. So again, if you are looking for a little bit of a break from the grittier, grimier stuff, this is a brilliant kind of murder mystery in a beautiful setting with a great sense of place, and we're absolutely delighted to have Susan Sichet on our list. Again, Murder Visits a French Village is coming in March 2023. And if we could go to the final slide, please. Just to say thank you very much. That's everything from me. If you'd like to hear more from us, we do have a monthly librarian newsletter featuring our upcoming books. That's specifically for librarians. And you can sign up for that at severnhouse.com/librarian. Or we'd be delighted if you would follow us on Twitter. We're at Severn House. Facebook, you can just search for Severn House, and Instagram, we are at Severn House Imprint. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for Booklist for having us. And thank you very much. That's everything from me.
Thank you so much for being here, Martin. We'll now hear from Lainey Mays. Lainey is the Library Marketing Associate at HarperCollins Publishers. She's a New York transplant by way of Mississippi, and her hobbies include listening to any podcast she can find. She also produces the excellent Library Love Fest podcast, which brings librarians and great books together through author interviews, conversations with editors, and upcoming book presentations. Thanks for being here, Lainey. The floor is yours.
Thanks, glad to be here. I hope everyone's doing well. On the next slide, you will see, I'm happy to bring some thrills and chills your way, but what's more thrilling than having the same amount of books as I have minutes? So I'm going to try my best, but you have all the information if I don't get to all of them there in this Edelweiss catalog. On the next slide, just a little bit of how to find us. That's our website, Library Love Fest. And on the next slide, we have, everything you need, whitelisting for galleys, book buzzes, the podcast that we just talked about, it's all there. Next slide, and we will get into the book. So Dennis Lehane, Small Mercies. This one is really exciting. It's from the acclaimed writer Dennis Lehane, his famous Mystic River. This is getting back to that. He kind of made some departures, and he's returning now to this Boston Irish world. It's the summer of 1974. It's kind of a big heat wave in Boston, and bill collectors are at Mary Pat Fennessy's house, and she's lived her entire life in this housing project as the Southie, an Irish-American enclave, and she kind of holds on to this tradition, but she's just kind of having a hard time. And then her daughter, Jules, stays out too late and doesn't come home. And then the same evening, a young Black man is found dead, struck by a subway train, mysterious circumstances around it. They don't seem to be related at all, but as she kind of pulls back the search for her daughter, she sees that maybe they do tie a little bit. And she's kind of riled up a little bit of trouble with Marty Butler, the Irish mob chieftain. So she's not, she's looking for answers. She wants some revenge and answers with a really strong heroine. There's a lot of depicting of criminality and power, the dark heart of American racism, and possibly one of the best quotes I think I've ever seen from a blurb from Junot Diaz. It says, Dennis Lehane is a supernova, and this is a novel that will throw your entire goddamn solar system out of alignment. I don't think there's anything else to be said. Next book is You Never Know by Connie Briscoe. So this is the New York Times writer making her triumphant return. It's a good novel of domestic suspense. A woman who is hearing impaired is woken up in the middle of the night in her large home. A man has broken in and is trying to assault her. She doesn't have time to reach for a cochlear implant, so she can't see nor hear him. The police find her. She's been tossed into this lake next to her house. She's soaking wet. She has no idea what happened. She can't find her husband. And then it goes back and forth between when she met her husband a year ago. He seemed perfect, but now some secrets are coming out that his ex-wife is missing and presumed dead, and the husband now is missing too. So she has to decide, does she know this intruder? Who was it? How does this go with her husband missing? It's just a really thrilling domestic thriller. Sets well beside Stacey Abrams and Wanda Morris and Alyssa Cole, and great for book clubs. The next book is The Last Word by Taylor Adams. So this is the author of the acclaimed Hairpin Bridge and No Exit. No Exit was released recently as a Hulu original film. That book was so good. So if you have time, go read his other two books. But this new one, I started it and I did not want to come on the webinar. I wanted to finish it. I have to say, it pulls you in immediately. His writing is just so crazy great, and you devour it. So in this book, we have a woman who is house sitting in a beachfront town in Washington State, kind of rainy. She's house sitting. She just spends her time downloading like cheap ebooks and reading them, mystery thrillers. And she downloads this one and it's terrible. So she's going to leave a review. She's the only person who's left a review. And they kind of get into a little fight, her little scuff, her and the author online. And as she does that, she kind of just like moves on and downloads the next book. And she spends her time doing that and communicating with her neighbor across the way. They write notes and look through telescopes. And she starts hearing bumps in the night. And she looks into it, and that author has 16 other books all about stalking and murder. So is it the author coming for her? We don't know. There's this really crazy, I'm just going to read a little bit, but in the book, she's writing to the person across the way, and she says, all of a sudden the words say, "Who is that?" And she looks in the telescope and she shrugs and says, "What?" And he says, he's writing more. "The storm intensifies." She squints into her telescope. He's written, "Man in your living room behind you." I think we can all agree, shivers. This one's just a fun read. Next is Going Zero by Anthony McCartan. So we have a librarian at the center of this thriller. Anthony is a screenwriter, playwright, novelist, or journalist. He's been nominated for 4 Academy Awards. This is really exciting. It's the story of a national security. The CIA has made this big surveillance program. They're going to roll it out, but they're going to beta test it first on 10 Americans. And they have 30 days to kind of go zero, go off the grid, and not be caught. If they're not caught, they get $3 million cash prize. If they're all caught, the company gets more funding. So there's a lot at stake. And we have, among the contestants, we have an unassuming Boston librarian, Caitlin Day. And she's got personal reasons to play this. And it gets pretty, it's like a page turner, and you get really into it, trying to see what she's going to do next. I have to say, when I talked to the editor about this, I said, "Oh, librarian, that's so exciting." And there was a quick pause and yes, a librarian, but there might be more to that. And that made me want to read it. So I hope that makes you pick it up ASAP too. Next book is With My Little Eye by Jocelyn Jackson. She's a library favorite. She's included in the Hall of Fame in library reads. We love Jocelyn. A few books back, she moved from women's fiction more into this psychological suspense domestic thriller with Never Have I Ever. And she's really good at blending these hard topics with twisty stories, good for book clubs, like ones you'll want to like break down, because it's like more like it's more than the mystery. There's a lot of like social, psychological things happening. And it's really dark, and you usually empathize with the characters. But in this book, we have actress Maribel Mills. She's moved to California, and she has a daughter. She's a single mom. She's turning 40. Not as many jobs are coming in. And she starts getting creepy letters. She has a stalker, and she doesn't know how to get rid of them. The police don't really believe her, don't know what to tell her. And then she comes home, and she starts smelling cologne in her bed, and she starts seeing her objects moved around the room. And so she's like, I have to get out. I have to save my daughter. So they move back to Atlanta for a fresh start. She's got a job lined up that doesn't come very often. And now she has to see if the distance will be enough to get rid of them when other letters start popping up. So Jocelyn's doing some really fun things with this one, and structure and pacing. It's dark like her past ones, but maybe not as dark. If you're a little worried about that from the last one, it's not as dark. And she always delivers a really wry laugh. She's very funny. And she will be at Day of Dog if you're going. Okay, next is The Devil's Ransom. So this is book 17, the Pike Logan series. There's character development in all these books, but you can jump in whenever. It's military fiction at its finest. We have Pike and Jennifer in this one, who are gone to extract a man on the run who's done a lot for the US in Afghanistan, and now he's being held, and then they're hit with a ransomware attack, and his team has to be forced to connect if that has to do with the Taliban and the hacker, if they have to do together, and how they have to get around both of these. But the problem he finds out is much larger than originally thought. Booklist said one of the last books that Taylor, a retired Special Forces lieutenant colonel, has a good grasp of the geopolitical backdrop of his stories, and his knowledge gives the book a solid layer of plausibility. And I think that is the perfect way to say it for this. He knows what he's talking about, and he writes so well. He will also be a day of dialogue if you're going. Come to our booth. Next is Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone. So this is our lead read, which is a program where the sales force all votes behind a book to get behind for the season. Benjamin Stevenson is the author of Greenlight and Either Side of Midnight. He's also a stand-up comedian. It's very Knives Out and Clue meets Agatha Christie, Thursday Murder Club. It's clever blend of classic and modern. A whole family gets together and it's revealed kind of cheekily, like fourth wall breaking, that they've all killed someone. And so they're reuniting after one brother is getting out of jail, and they go to a remote ski lodge and a murder happens. So now they have to figure out if it's one of them or something else. And it's already been optioned for TV by HBO, and we brought the other second book, so we'll have more from this author. We're very excited. Next book is James Grapondo, Code 6. So excited for a new Grapondo. This is a standalone, the first standalone in between his James Switek series, but it's the first one since 2015. So, you can jump in, you don't have to know anything about his other series. It's a tech thriller. It's got this big data angle, similar to The Chain. There's a playwright, Kate, who is struggling to launch a script she's been secretly researching her entire life, but it has to do with big data. And coincidentally, her dad is the CEO of a private data integration company whose client includes the CIA. Then, and she's dealing with the passing of her mother and maybe thinks it has something to do with her dad's job. And then Patrick, a childhood friend, comes back into her life, changing everything she thinks about all of this. He's kind of the golden boy for this company. And the company comes under investigation by the Justice Department, and Patrick suddenly goes missing. So now she doesn't even know who to trust. It's, everybody loves James Grapondo. So next is Double or Nothing by Kim Sherwood. This one's really cool. So it's a brand new trilogy following MI6 00 agents like 007. It's the first of 3, officially approved by the Ian Fleming estate, and it's co-published with Harper UK. These 3 novels reflect James Bond, but also serve as like a diving into more of the 00 section universe. And unlike other ones written in the Fleming universe, they're largely set in World War II or post-World War II during the Cold War era. She has totally made them contemporary, featuring geopolitical concerns in the 21st century. And William Morrow is going to take over publishing for all of the Ian Fleming books in the US. So it's going to be a great companion, going to fit right there beside them. Next is The Girl Who Disappeared. This is Claire Douglas. Her books are super fun and twisty. Her last one, The Couple at Number 9, hit number 3 on the Sunday Times bestseller list and in paperback. And this one is her 8th book with us, and she's just really getting a steady growing in her popularity, and we can't wait to see it continue. So in this book, we have a car accident that happened 20 years ago in a really bucolic stretch of Southwest England, in a rural town that seems to be haunted. They keep kind of seeing things, creepy happenings. But 20 years ago, a car accident happened with 4 girls. 3 of them went missing, and 1 was found but badly hurt, and she doesn't remember anything. Now it's been 20 years. A journalist is coming in to uncover the story, and it's made clear that she's not really welcome there, and some creepy things start happening to her. But she hopes she's not another mystery to be solved from that town. We have fabulous quotes for this one from Gillian McAllister and Alice Feeney and many more. Next is We Love to Entertain. This is by Sarah Strohmeyer. If you like HGTV, mysteries, home renovation, this is the book for you. Holly and Robert Barron are young real estate investors. They're contestants on a competition show, and it's run by a home renovation app. And millions in product placements. Everything looks great to them. They have this huge, crazy big wedding. And all of a sudden, right after, they go missing, and the suspicion falls on their 20-something assistant, who's really eager and secretly in love with Robert, and her mom and her kind of team up to not let this town, who knows a lot of their secrets, think that she did this, and so they go on a truth-finding mission. Next is A Death in Denmark by Amalia Malati. This is the first of the series. Among other accolades, she has written a Danish crime series that's on Amazon Prime. And in this, we have Gabriel Prost, who is an ex-Copenhagen cop. He dresses with panache and loves jazz, and he's got a relentless pursuer of the truth. He kind of has this like Poirot feeling to him, you know, he's kind of larger than life. But there's a lot of skillful descriptions of Copenhagen. This is a little armchair travel, and he's going to go look at a case that looks pretty open and shut. And as he unveils things, he realizes maybe it's not. It has kind of maybe a bigger conspiracy in the government. And it kind of goes back to this World War II time of anti-Semitism raging in Europe during the German occupation of Denmark. So it's based on kind of this true history, although a fictional book. And she holds nothing back. It's a really universal exploration of racism and unethical policing. All right, next. Okay, we have two more. Can we do it? Let's see. Maltese Iguana by Tim Dorsey. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up to be good with time, but we have Tim Dorsey, The Maltese Iguana. It's his Surge Storm 26 book. And then the next one is The City of Dreams by Don Winzo, the second in his series. And then lastly, you have all of these books available, and you can peruse them, or please send me an email on this next slide if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lainey. Next, we'll be joined by Erica Loberg. Erica is a publicist at Soho Press in New York City. Take it away, Erica.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. If you're new to Soho, we also publish adult literary fiction under our Soho Press imprint and YA under our Soho Teen imprint, so feel free to check those out if you have time. Today, of course, I'll be talking to you about Soho Crime and some excellent books we have coming from some of our most popular authors. All of these are available for request on NetGalley and Edelweiss, so please check them out. With that, I will get started. So first up in March, we have Night Flight to Paris by Cara Black. This is the highly anticipated sequel to 3 Hours in Paris, and it's one of our biggest books of 2023. You may know Cara from her Amy Leduc Investigations, a long-standing series about a Parisian private investigator who has now covered, which has now covered all the arrondissements of Paris across its 20 novels. Cara brilliantly captures the setting and lesser known details of Paris and its history in these novels, which take place mostly in the 90s, and she's maintained a large audience of fans across the country for these books. Now, the Amy series has continued thriving with the new book that just came out earlier this year, but in 2020, Cara Black took her writing in a completely new direction with the standalone novel, 3 Hours in Paris, a gripping World War II historical thriller, which despite coming out in April of 2020 at the height of the COVID pandemic, was a national bestseller and a breakout success. 3 Hours in Paris was inspired by a specific moment in history. In June 1940, when Paris fell to the Nazis, Hitler spent a total of 3 hours in the city before abruptly leaving, and to this day, nobody knows why. So in the book, Cara imagines what might have transpired in that time with an absolutely pulse-pounding narrative about an American markswoman named Kate Reese, who was recently grieving her dead husband and child when she sent on British intelligence to Paris with an imperative mission that could change the course of history, to assassinate Hitler. When she misses the shot, everything goes haywire, and we follow Kate on a thrilling run for her life. So I won't ruin the end of 3 Hours in Paris for anyone, but Night Flight to Paris is now the second World War II thriller following our intrepid sharpshooter Kate Reese, though it can certainly be read as a standalone. In this novel, 2 years after her Hitler assassination attempt, Kate has left spycraft behind and is a sharpshooting instructor living a quiet life in the Scottish Highlands when her former handler drags her back into the fray in Paris with a new three-pronged mission where the stakes just keep getting higher and higher. She must deliver a forbidden package, assassinate a German operative with intel that could crush the Allies' upcoming plans, and she must rescue a British agent who once saved her life. Night Flight to Paris delivers the same heart-pounding thrill ride of the first book while delving further into Kate Reese's character. She's an intelligent, resilient farm girl turned war hero who's determined not to let her past or her trauma slow her down in any way. Some great comps for this are Alan First novels, The Day of the Jackal by Frederick Forsyth, 6 Days of the Condor by James Grady. I would hand this to readers who love action-packed thrillers, World War II novels, espionage, and feminist narratives. And as a last note, Kara will be on the thrillers panel at the end of Day of Dialogue this Thursday, so be sure to check her out. Next, we're gonna bring it back to fall right now, and then we'll go in order of pub month from here. So in just a couple of weeks on November 1st, we have Standing by the Wall by Mick Herron. This is a collection of all of his Slough House novellas collected in one collection for the first time ever. And this includes a brand new, never before published Christmas story, hence the wonderfully festive cover we have here that will have some metallic effects on the final jacket, and it'll be really eye-catching for holiday displays. These novellas expand on the world of the Slough House novels, where MI5 spies who've messed up in their careers are sent to a D-list team stuck doing busy work far away from any of the real action they long for, though inevitably they always get tangled up in something bigger. There are 8 Slough House novels, beginning with Slow Horses and going through Bad Actors, which just released earlier this year. And the really exciting thing is that these novels have been turned into a series called Slow Horses from Apple TV Plus, featuring an all-star cast, including Gary Oldman and Kristen Scott Thomas. The first season aired to huge acclaim, including a 95% Rotten Tomatoes score back in April. It was based on the first book, and season 2 of the show airs on December 2nd and is based on book 2, Dead Lions. Mick Herron's Slough House universe is one of action-packed espionage, dark humor, and incisive political commentary that has earned him a reputation as the Le Carré of his generation. And as you see on the screen, in the words of NPR's Fresh Air, the best spy novelist now working. The 5 novellas in Standing by the Wall offer a great introduction to his style and feature a new cohort of incompetent and tragic spies to root for. So folks who haven't read the novels can use this as an entry point to this addictively humorous and smart world of spies, while folks who have read the novels will relish this expansion offered in these pages. Next. Looking ahead to January, we have The Motion Picture Teller, which is a new standalone novel from Colin Cotterill, the award-winning author of the Dr. Siri Piebone investigations. Colin has lived in Thailand for many years now, and back in the 90s, he was tapped to write a screenplay for a new production company, and he ended up exploring and learning about new parts of Thailand in the process. So that screenplay was called Bangkok 2010, and it never went anywhere, but the story lingered in Colin's mind and kind of stuck with him over the years. And eventually it turned into this novel, The Motion Picture Teller. This is a fun, kind of bizarre and darkly humorous mystery without a crime that takes place in Bangkok, Thailand in 1996. Our main character, Supot, is a big film buff and loves watching classic movies with his friend Ali, who owns a video store. One day, a mysterious cassette called Bangkok 2010 arrives at Ali's store. It's a dystopian film set in Thailand, and after watching, the two of them think it's the best thing they've ever seen. And they start to wonder, why have they and no one else ever heard of the movie or the cast or the crew or anything about this movie? So these questions linger in Supot's mind, and he embarks on a journey through the countryside to find answers, and he discovers that powerful people are intent on keeping the film buried. This is great for anyone who's read Colin's previous novels in the Dr. Siri series. The Motion Picture Teller will be a welcome standalone treat with its humor and thought-provoking plotting. At the same time, new readers will relish the delightful offbeat mystery that this offers as they try to solve it, and immersing themselves in the layered storytelling of this mystery around a film within a book. This is a great pick for readers of quirky and puzzle mysteries, film narratives, historical fiction, and anyone interested in exploring Southeast Asia. Next. In February, we have Quake Cortez' Last Seen in La Paz, which is the 3rd book in the Emma John investigations, which began with The Missing American, which won the Seamus Award, and continued last year with Sleep Well, My Lady, which was nominated for the Sue Grafton Award. These are excellently written investigations set in Accra, Ghana, where we follow Emma John, who is a young, intelligent, ambitious investigator who's also the only female PI at her agency. So we get some interesting gender dynamics and explorations of that there. In this book, Emma investigates the disappearance of a friend's daughter named Ngozi, who was recently swept up in a new relationship with her boyfriend Femi, who is thought to be involved somehow. Ngozi is still, as Emma's investigating, Femi is found murdered at his home, and Emma discovers that Femi was part of a network of sex traffickers across West Africa. So at this point, Ngozi is still nowhere to be found, and the stakes are really high. So Emma has to work to find Ngozi before she turns up murdered as well. Last Seen in La Paz once again delivers the excellent writing that has earned this series annual spots on Best of the Year's list, best of the year lists, and it takes Emma beyond her usual boundaries, both geographically and personally, in a more expansive narrative that's really about human rights. More than just the immediate questions where Ngozi is and why she went missing, Coyle delves into a larger exploration about human trafficking and asks why these things are even happening to women in the real world in the first place. Coyle was born in Ghana, and he now lives in Southern California. But as he was writing this book and working on it, he did multiple research trips to Africa, and really the details of his experiences and observations really shine through in the setting and the characterization and the cultural depictions in the novel and in these series. I highly recommend this great series for fans of African mysteries, PI investigations, and strong female protagonists. Next. In April, we have Ozark Dogs by Eli Craner. Earlier this year, we published Craner's debut novel, Don't Know Tough, a gritty Southern Gothic noir, which was the winner of Soho Crime's Peter Levsey First Crime Novel Contest. And we've been so glad to work with Eli and help make him a rising star in the crime fiction scene. He was just at BoucherCon in September, and even though his debut had just published in March, everyone knew him and wanted to speak with him. He's just really one of those people who has the charisma and the go-getting attitude to put himself out there, and he works really hard for his books. So it's been really great working with him, and we're excited to have a new book from him. Eli's from Arkansas, and he lives there now, and his writing has a distinctly Southern voice that welcomes you into these dark, gritty, and even violent stories enmeshed in small town life and drama. Don't Know Tough was already named one of USA Today's best books of the year so far, and was kind of a grittier Friday Night Lights involving murder, abuse, and dark souls in a town that revolves around its high school football team. In Ozark Dogs, Eli Craner introduces a new story with the same captivating small town drama and noir with deadly stakes and an even more thrilling tone. Ozark Dogs is about Vietnam War veteran Jeremiah Fitzgerald, who raises his granddaughter Joanna as his own in their Ozark junkyard, which effectively doubles as an armory. When the Ledfords, a family of meth dealers and white supremacists, kidnaps Joanna over a long-standing blood debt between their families, Jeremiah desperately searches for his granddaughter. This is an immersive, thrilling story full of raw emotion, and it's inspired by a true story of a double murder that took place in a junkyard in Eli's hometown, which he goes into detail about in a really, really compelling author's note at the end of the book. Ozark Dogs is Southern noir at its finest, and it's about the lengths people will go to for their family and their honor. Hand this to fans of David Joy, S.A. Cosby, and Wiley Cash. Next. Finally, in May, we have more noir, one of the darkest kind from Japanese master of literary noir, Fuminori Nakamura, in The Rope Artist, translated by Sam Bett, who just translated My Annihilation, which just came out earlier this year as well. Nakamura writes mind-bending noir that boldly mines the most sinister aspects of humanity and wildly dark mysteries about thieves, murderers, and in this case, Japan's underground BDSM scene. His work is not for the faint of heart, but if you're willing to dive in, you'll be captivated by Nakamura's exploration of how the mind and morality can unravel in the craziest ways. The Rope Artist delves into the Japanese art of kinbaku, a form of rope bondage connected to BDSM where people are tightly bound in intricate and beautiful patterns, and it has a complex history of spirituality, torture, cleansing, and sacrifice. The novel follows two detectives investigating the murder of a kinbaku instructor. Through the investigation, Togashi, a junior member of the police force, must face his own private transgressive desires as they emerge more and more strongly throughout the case. On the other hand, his colleague Hayama is extremely buttoned up and morally upright, and he begins noticing a dangerous darkness within his colleague Togashi, so Hayama embarks on his own investigation of what's going on there. What follows is an unflinching exploration of identity, violence, sexuality, spirituality, and power, full of twisted, tangled turns and revelations. In Nakamura's signature style, this novel will take you on a harrowing psychological journey and root itself in your mind. So hand this to readers of noir, literary suspense, pulp, and anyone interested in the overlap of BDSM and feminism. The final note on this book is that it has some exciting production elements as well. So it's actually paper over board binding. That red diamond in the center is a die cut out, and beneath it, it's a full color red and beautiful end papers. So it's a really, really eye-catching package as well. And next, that is all I have for you today. So please, again, feel free to check all these titles out and more on NetGalley and Edelweiss, and my email's on the screen, so you're welcome to email me with any specific questions. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, Erica. And our final presenter today will be Faith Matson. Faith has worked as the Director of Marketing and Publicity for Oceanview Publishing since January 2022. Originally from Colorado, she's now based in St. Petersburg, Florida, with her houseplant collection and cat that sheds too much. I can relate. Take it away, Faith.
Hello, thank you so much for having me today. I am really thrilled to be able to present some of our forthcoming titles with all of you. I've been really thrilled to hear about some of the other titles that you've already seen. So hopefully these can make it onto your lists as well. But first of all, I'll just tell you a little bit about Oceanview Publishing in case you're not familiar with us. So go ahead and head to the next slide. Yep. Oceanview Publishing has been recognized as one of the country's preeminent publishers of original mystery, thriller, and suspense titles. And we have over 200 titles in our backlist. We publish 24 new books each year, and since 2006, we've continued to discover new authors with fresh voices. So without further ado, I proudly present our forthcoming titles. All right, so the first book that I wanted to talk about today is Doomed Legacy by Matt Coyle. This is the 9th book in his award-winning Rick Cahill PI crime series. This is one of our most successful series. It has a huge fan base, and so everyone has really been looking forward to the release of this book. And this author is a multi-award winner. He's just very accomplished. So let me give you a quick synopsis. A rage he can't control, a family at its breaking point, killers lurking in the shadows. Battling a deadly disease, Rick Cahill risks his life to find the truth about a friend's death. Can he stay alive long enough to avenge his friend and keep his family together? And is his relentless crusade worth the risk? So Rick Cahill, the protagonist of this series, has gone through a lot at this point, and Matt Coyle has always said that he didn't want Rick to just be, invincible. So he's starting to feel the side effects of his life of crime fighting. And he's suffered some brain injuries and he's lashing out at his family. And so it's sort of this tug of war between his internal struggles and trying to help the people around him. So it's a really interesting book where you learn a lot more about the protagonist, and people are really loving it so far. And Matt Coyle, let me tell you more about him. He's the best-selling author of the Rick Cahill PI Crime series. He was named the 2021 San Diego Writers Festival Mystery Writer of the Year, and his novels have won the Anthony Award, the Seamus Award, the Lefty Award, the San Diego Book Award, and many more. He's also received nominations for numerous Anthony, McCavity, Seamus, and Lefty Awards. Matt is a graduate of UC Santa Barbara, and he lives in San Diego. This series is set in the San Diego area, so he knows the area well. And the last book in this series, Last Redemption, actually got a starred review from Publishers Weekly, where they said that contemporary hard-boiled PI novels don't get any better than this. I don't think you could get a review better than that. So we were super excited and we couldn't agree more. And we think this book is perfect for fans of Michael Connelly's Harry Bosch and Lee Child's Jack Reacher. Next up, we have Bombay Monsoon from James W. Ziskin. This goes on sale December 6th. And Ziskin is a new author to us, but he's definitely not a new author. He's well known for his Ellie Stone mystery series, but we're thrilled to be kicking off this new series set in 1975 India. We think it's just a really promising story. So in this book, it's 1975, and Danny Jacobs, an ambitious American journalist, has arrived in Bombay on a new assignment. Timing couldn't be worse, or for a journalist better. Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, fearing a coup, has declared a state of emergency. Throw in an assassination of a police officer by a Marxist extremist, then complicate everything with a hot, unexpected romance for a reporter's dream come true, or his worst nightmare. Lee Child praised this book. He called it intense, atmospheric, and intelligent, a superior and rewarding thriller that I'm glad I read. And we couldn't agree more with that. Now, James Ziskin, he is the Anthony, Barry, and McCavity award-winning author of the Ellie Stone mysteries. His novels and short stories have been shortlisted more than 20 times for prestigious industry awards, including for multiple Edgar, Anthony, Barry, Lefty, and McCavity awards. Bombay Monsoon is the first thriller in an intended new series set in 1975 India. Ziskin actually lived and worked in India for 4 years, so he's very familiar with the area, but he now lives in Massachusetts. So we're very excited for that book. And then next up, we've got Misfire. This is by Tammy Giuliano, and it comes out in January. This is the second book in her Kate Downey medical mystery series. The first book was called Fatal Intent, and people absolutely loved that book. Tammy herself is an anesthesiologist at a teaching university, and so is the protagonist of this series. So she writes with a lot of expertise, and it's clear that she knows what she's talking about. So in this book, a new kind of implanted defibrillator begins to malfunction in multiple patients, causing the heart rhythm problems it's meant to correct. Unfortunately for Dr. Kate Downey, her beloved Aunt Erm has one. In her search for the cause of the misfires, Kate bypasses obstructionist cardiologists, discovering a plot of revenge and greed and uncovering the truth about the seemingly random device misfires. Amid disappearances and murders, she will stop at nothing to protect patients and the ones she loves. So like I said, this author is an award-winning medical educator, and she's an anesthesiologist. In addition to a prolific list of academic publications, YouTube teaching videos, and numerous teaching awards, she has also written award-winning short fiction. Misfire is Giuliano's second novel in the Kate Downey Medical Mystery series, and Tammy lives in Gainesville, Florida with her husband. Lisa Gardner read this book and absolutely loved it. It's really, sort of cross-genre. It's got a lot of elements of techno thriller, but it's also a medical thriller, and it has a really strong female protagonist who a lot of readers, I think, will resonate with as she goes through cycles of grief and moving on from this intense, these events that have happened in her very recent history. And so she's trying to move on from trauma while also helping others around her. So it's a really complex character, and she's just wonderful to read. All right, next up, we've got Killer Story by Matt Whitten. This goes on sale in January, and this is his latest standalone psychological thriller, so you don't have to have any background information for this one. And in this book, young journalist Petra Kovac launches a true crime podcast to investigate the murder of an alt-right YouTuber she loved like a little sister despite their differences. Petra's bare-knuckle tactics uncover new suspects and rocket her to the top of the podcasting charts. But at what cost? She must fight to catch the killer and keep herself afloat, or risk losing her job, her love, and her reputation. This is a very twisty novel. The protagonist is relatable in many ways, but by the end of the book, you're wondering whether you trust her, whether you like her, but it's told from first person, so it's really interesting to get into her mind. And Matt Whitten is a very accomplished TV writer. He writes with a lot of fast pacing, and it's just page turning action and dialogue that makes it really hard to put down once you pick it up. And that comes from his experience in TV writing. So let me tell you even more about him. He is not only a TV writer, he's a novelist, he's a playwright and a screenwriter. His television writing includes such shows as House, Pretty Little Liars, and Law & Order. His TV scripts have been nominated for an Emmy and 2 Edgar Awards, and he has written 4 mystery novels, winning a Malice Domestic Award for Best Debut Novel. He's also written stage plays that have been produced throughout the world. Killer Story is his most recent novel, but his previous novel, The Necklace, which was another standalone, it has been optioned for film by Appian Way and Cartel Pictures, with Leonardo DiCaprio attached as producer. That was a really great book as well. So if you haven't read The Necklace yet, I definitely encourage you to check it out. But this one is another one that we're really excited about. It casts a searing light on journalism, the making of true crime content, and the ease of political radicalization, all through a really entertaining story. And we think it's perfect for fans of Karen Slaughter and Harlan Coben. All right, next up on my list is The Scorned by David Putnam. This is number 10 in his Bruno Johnson crime series, double digits. This is a really beloved series of ours. And so this book, again, is really highly anticipated by his very loyal fan base. So in this book, Bruno Johnson, a fugitive in the US, leaves his family in Costa Rica and returns to Los Angeles to rescue a friend's daughter. Bruno finds the girl who says her newborn child was kidnapped by a notorious crime figure. As he searches for the child, Bruno stumbles into a vast criminal empire that exploits women and children. To save the baby and return home, Bruno resorts to his brand of justice while evading US law enforcement. So this protagonist, Bruno Johnson, he's an ex-cop and he's an ex-con. David Putnam is not an ex-con, but he is an ex-cop, so he brings a lot of authenticity to the character. And he was an ex-cop in Los Angeles, where much of this book is set. So there's a lot of overlap there. The ninth book in this series, The Sinister, which is the one that directly precedes this book, also received a starred review from Publishers Weekly, where they said the twists come fast and Putnam's brisk prose maintains the momentum. That can really be said about any book in this series. They're all wonderful reads. And let me tell you more about David Putnam. So during his career in law enforcement, best-selling author David Putnam has done it all. He's worked in narcotics, violent crimes, criminal intelligence, hostage rescue, SWAT, and internal affairs, to name just a few. He is the recipient of many awards and commendations for heroism. Like I said, The Scorned is the 10th novel in the acclaimed and best-selling Bruno Johnson crime series. And Putnam lives in the Los Angeles area with his wife, Mary. This series has received praise from Michael Connelly, William Kent Kruger, Janet Ivanovich, C.J. Box, and more. And we think it's perfect for fans of Michael Connelly and David Baldacci. So definitely check that one out. And last up on my list is Burning Distance by Joanne Leadham Ackerman. This is another new author for us, but again, not a new author in general. She is very acclaimed. She's been heavily involved with the PEN International organization, and she's written a lot of fiction in the past. So we're really excited to be bringing this new historical cross-genre book to our readers. So let me tell you more about it. In this book, when Lizzie was 10, her father was killed in a plane crash. Now another member of her family has been murdered, and Lizzie's true love, Adil, has been deported with his father, who's been accused of illicit arms trafficking. Could these seemingly unrelated events be linked? Burning Distance is a modern-day Romeo and Juliet set against the background of deadly weapons smuggling in the Middle East and explosive family secrets. So this book is very cross-genre. It sort of has elements of, literary fiction. It's a historical book. It's definitely got a lot of thriller in it. It's got a little bit of romance. So it's really a crowd pleaser. I think you'll be hard-pressed to find someone who doesn't enjoy reading this book. And Joanne Leadham Ackerman is a novelist, short story writer, and journalist whose works of fiction include The Dark Path to the River and No Marble Angels. Her recent nonfiction book, Pen Journeys, Memoir of Literature on the Line, drew inspiration from her job as a vice president of the worldwide writers and human rights organization PEN International. Burning Distance is her latest novel. But her first novel, The Dark Path to the River, received praise from Barbara Kingsolver, and she said that it was well written, thematically rich, and that she fell in love with the characters and she didn't want the pleasure to end. And we feel that can apply to this book too. It's just true of Joanne's writing in general. She's a lovely author, and I just got lost in the story and I didn't want to put the book down. So I'm sure you would have the same experience, and I definitely encourage you to check this one out. We think it's sort of an interesting mix of Jane Austen and John le Carré. Again, it's sort of a cross-cultural love story and political thriller. All right, and I think that was my last title, but just wanted to say thank you so much for having me and listening to our forthcoming titles. If you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. My email address is up there, and I'm happy to chat with you about any of these titles or any of our other titles. Our full NetGalley and Edelweiss catalogs are available at those links. So yeah, just feel free to reach out, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Faith, and a big thank you to all of today's wonderful panelists. Just so many amazing books, too many to count. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's slide presentation, title list, certificate of completion, and the video recording. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past webinars and register for upcoming ones like those here. Now you can share Booklist love with everyone connected to your school district, library system, or higher learning institution. Booklist Online Unlimited offers just that, unlimited simultaneous access to 30 years worth of review and article archives, plus digital editions of all of Booklist publications. For pricing and other questions, visit booklistonline.com/subscribe. Have you heard about the Booklist Reader, our new magazine that offers reading recommendations to patrons of all ages, is coming to print this January. So go to bit.ly/booklistreader in print to find out how you can order print copies in bulk for your library. If you already have a Booklist subscription, you can share the latest issue now. Just go to our website for more details. Thank you all for joining us for today's webinar, and one more huge thank you to our amazing panelists and to our sponsors, Severn House, HarperCollins Publishers, Soho Press, and Oceanview Publishing. This concludes today's webinar. We'll see you next time.